The winter of 1944 in the Ardennes forest was brutal. Snow, ice, and a cold that killed as surely as bullets. The landscape was transformed into a frozen wasteland, where every breath stung and every step crunched underfoot. For the soldiers entrenched in this icy hell, the weather was as much an enemy as the opposing army. Allied soldiers faced not just the enemy, but a relentless, bone-chilling freeze. Their uniforms, never designed for such extremes, offered little protection. Frostbite and hypothermia became daily threats, sapping strength and morale. Far from home, they built crude shelters from logs, earth, and stone, desperate to keep the frost at bay. These makeshift dugouts were often damp and cramped, but they offered a small measure of relief from the biting wind. Fuel was scarce, and open fires were dangerous. Smoke could reveal their position. Even a wisp of smoke curling above the trees could draw enemy artillery, so every attempt to stay warm carried a risk. They needed a way to stay warm that was both discreet and efficient. The challenge was to create heat without giving away their location, a puzzle that demanded both caution and creativity. Driven by necessity, they experimented, recalling old wisdom about building fires that lasted. Some remembered stories from home, how their fathers or grandfathers had kept cabins warm with clever tricks and resourceful thinking. They looked to the earth and stone for answers, rediscovering forgotten principles of thermal science. By channeling heat through rocks and soil, they could warm their shelters with less fuel and almost no smoke. These were ordinary men, forced to innovate in extraordinary circumstances. Each new idea was shared, tested, and improved upon, as survival depended on cooperation as much as courage. Their makeshift solutions became a testament to human resilience. Against all odds, they found ways to endure, drawing on ingenuity and the will to survive. In the crucible of cold and conflict, they found new ways to survive. The lessons learned in those frozen trenches would shape not only their fate, but the future of military survival. The lessons they learned would echo far beyond that frozen winter, inspiring future generations to adapt, persevere, and never underestimate the power of human determination in the face of adversity. The soldiers' first breakthrough was understanding thermal mass. Instead of letting heat escape, they built fires against thick stone and clay walls. These dense materials absorbed the fire's energy, then released it slowly, providing warmth long after the flames died. A small fire could charge the stone, keeping the shelter warm for hours. This meant less fuel, less risk, and more comfort. The cabins, though crude, became habitable sanctuaries. The soldiers weren't just surviving. They were using physics to create stability. With thermal mass, they turned the Earth itself into an ally. It was a simple, powerful shift that changed everything. Storing heat was only half the battle. In the harsh, unforgiving winters of wartime, keeping warm could mean the difference between life and death. Soldiers huddled in makeshift shelters, desperate for a way to stay alive through the long, freezing nights. Generating heat efficiently was the next challenge. Traditional stoves and open fires devoured precious fuel, which was often scarce and difficult to find on the front lines. Open fireplaces wasted fuel and drew attention. Their bright flames and plumes of smoke could easily reveal a position to the enemy, putting everyone at risk. The soldiers improvised a new design, the rocket mass heater. It was a breakthrough born from necessity, crafted in the field with whatever materials could be scavenged. Using scavenged metal and clay, they built L-shaped combustion chambers that burned wood hot and clean. This clever design allowed them to maximize every scrap of fuel, making the most of limited resources. The intense draft consumed nearly all fuel, leaving little smoke, perfect for stealth. The rocket mass heater's nearly invisible exhaust kept soldiers hidden and safe from prying eyes. Hot gases traveled through stone benches, transferring heat before exiting cool and harmless. This meant the shelter stayed warm long after the fire had burned out, conserving energy and reducing risk. A handful of twigs could warm a shelter for hours. Even the smallest branches, often overlooked, became valuable sources of heat. The rocket mass heater was born of necessity, but its efficiency was revolutionary. It changed the way soldiers survived in the cold, and its legacy continues in modern sustainable heating. Every bit of fuel was used, every degree of warmth captured, nothing was wasted, and every innovation was a step towards survival. In the frozen forest, this innovation meant survival. The rocket mass heater became a symbol of ingenuity and hope, proving that even in the darkest times, human creativity could spark warmth and light. Heat was precious, so the soldiers built shelters to keep it in. Small, low-ceilinged spaces minimized the air to heat. Walls were packed with earth and clay, roofs piled with soil, pine needles, and even snow for insulation. Windows were tiny or non-existent, sealed with whatever was available. Every crack was stuffed to stop drafts. These shelters became thermal envelopes, fortresses against the cold. The design was instinctive, practical, and focused on survival. By working with nature, not against it, the soldiers maximized every bit of warmth. Their architecture was a lesson in efficiency and adaptation. In the Ardennes, every detail mattered. When the war ended, the soldiers left their hard-won knowledge behind. The post-war world embraced cheap energy and modern conveniences. Small, insulated shelters gave way to sprawling homes with thin walls and big windows. Central heating replaced clever design. The art of working with nature was forgotten. The skills and wisdom of the Ardennes faded, replaced by a culture of consumption. Earth, stone, and wood were dismissed as primitive. The sustainable methods born in hardship were buried by an avalanche of cheap energy. The memory of resilience was lost in the rush for progress. Decades later, energy crises sparked a search for forgotten solutions. Pioneers in the 1970s rediscovered thermal mass and efficient stoves. Innovators like Dr. Larry Winiarski refined the rocket stove, formalizing its design. Passive solar homes revived the idea of storing heat in dense materials. The Internet spread these ideas, turning foxhole wisdom into global knowledge. People embraced rocket mass heaters for their efficiency and independence. The old lessons found new life in a world seeking sustainability. The resilience of the past became a blueprint for the future. Today, the Ardennes lessons are more relevant than ever. We face climate change and resource limits, just as the soldiers faced the cold. The first step, insulate and seal our homes, keeping heat in. Next, use thermal mass to stabilize temperatures and reduce energy needs. Rocket mass heaters offer clean, efficient warmth from simple materials. These solutions empower individuals and reduce waste. The soldier's ingenuity shows us how to build smarter, not bigger. Sometimes the simplest ideas are the most powerful. Their blueprint can guide us toward a resilient, sustainable future. The Ardennes winter is more than just a chapter in history. It's a powerful lesson in human ingenuity and perseverance. In the biting cold, surrounded by endless snow and uncertainty, soldiers faced not only the enemy, but the relentless force of nature itself. The soldier's struggle reminds us that comfort was once hard-won, earned through grit and determination. Every moment was a battle against the elements, and every small victory, like a warm meal or a dry pair of socks, was cherished. Their shelters were more than just boxes. They were carefully designed systems, crafted to conserve every precious bit of warmth. Soldiers used whatever materials they could find, layering branches, earth, and scraps of fabric to create insulation against the freezing air. Scarcity drove innovation, necessity forged resilience. Out of desperation, new ideas emerged. Makeshift stoves, clever ventilation, and resourceful repairs became the difference between survival and surrender. Today we face our own challenges: energy shortages, a changing climate, and the urgent need for sustainability. The comforts we enjoy now are built on the lessons learned by those who came before us. We can learn from their example, build with nature, value thrift, and embrace simple, lasting solutions. The principles of efficiency and adaptation that kept soldiers alive can inspire us to create homes and communities that are both resilient and sustainable. Their story is a blueprint for survival and sustainability, showing us that innovation often springs from hardship and that the past holds answers for the future. The knowledge is there, waiting in the echoes of the past, preserved in manuals, memories, and the artifacts left behind. These lessons are not just relics, they are guides for those willing to learn. By remembering and applying these lessons, we honor their struggle and prepare ourselves for the challenges ahead. Each generation has its own battles, but resilience is timeless. The wisdom of that frozen winter endures, ready for those willing to listen and carry it forward into a new era.